Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is a Smart Brain Insights podcast, and today we're continuing the conversation, our third episode with Andre Vermeulen Jr., who is the CTO for Neurolink in South Africa, our parent company. Can you join me on stage, Andre Jr.?
Hi, Edith. Thank you so much for having me again. It's always such a pleasure to engage with you and to have these conversations with you.
Fantastic. Andre, one of the things that it came to mind at the end of the episode, we talked a little bit about our profile and what types of people we help. We talked about coaches, education, corporate. I mean, I work with leaders individually as I do executive coaching, but most of my work is with practitioners who really want to learn our tools and our applications and be certified to carry on this magnificent neuroscience of learning and helping others succeed. And it came to mind, let's talk about success. How does that look like? And the journey, because in my 15 years with Neurolink, one of the things that I have experienced, not only for myself, is how people have shifted their life, had made significant changes that have helped in actually their well-being, their happiness level, and also their performance level. Now, that's as an individual level. Yes. I can only imagine what other practitioners around the world and your own in Neurolink South Africa have experienced with 34 years in this. Because for us, this is not new. For many parts of the world, it's a wave of neuro everything. But for us, this is a long time standing work that we have been doing, and it has been a proven approach for success. So let's talk about some of those cases. Just give me one or two or three examples. Well, let's start with one first. Tell me about a successful case in which there was an application, and what was the situation, and what kind of intervention we did, and how did it resulted.
Yeah, so I want to start off with just a one-on-one scenario that I had with a client that I actually did a debriefing with. So it was a family that came to me, just had they've been struggling at school. The kids aren't performing the way that they should. They've had them tested in terms of IQ test, highly intelligent kids, but zero motivation to perform at school. And, the parents come to you, and not like they want to, they don't come to you to say there's something wrong with my child, but you can see in their eyes they need that help, or they're looking for something, they're trying to grasp onto something. And I sat with the child. We did the assessment. Was very intimate. Well, I can probably say this, but it's intimidating to sit there with highly intelligent parents as well, being they are in the medical field. So you sit there, and I was still very young. It was about just the time that I started with Neurolink. So that's now, that was about 10 years ago that I had this situation. So the parents come, we do the assessment with the child. The child looks like they're not necessarily engaging with me and with the questionnaire, but we get the results, and you see immediately that the parents get like this aha moment while you go through that debriefing. So we sat with this particular child, we call it a teacher's pet profile. So left hemisphere dominant, right eye dominant, right ear dominant, right hand dominant, so full sensory access to his information processing. So whether I am stressed or not, I'm still receiving the information through my right ear. It's being processed by my left hemisphere. Everything is happening like it should. So why should I pay attention to what the teacher says in the class? Now, what made this a bit more challenging was the fact that the child was highly receptive and
Which means
a
what?
strong emotional feeler, not something that you. So we're highly receptive, meaning I sit back. You're not going to know what I'm thinking. I'll ask you a question if I feel, or if I am asked to answer a question, then I will if I really have to. Then I'll maybe give you an answer. But being receptive means I take that step back, and it's sort of like pulling teeth. You know, some people are so expressive when they're stressed, they go into overdrive, like bah, 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 bah. Keep on. But for this particular child being receptive, I get stressed. I'm in an uncomfortable situation. I'm quiet. Now the teacher says I'm not getting any engagement from him in the class. Now the brilliant thing for me was to be able to sit with these parents and tell them, your child is experiencing stress. It's not work related. He's not stressed out about the work that he's receiving in the classroom. It's about the pressure that he feels the spotlight is on me. I'm a bit more receptive, but I'm a strong emotional feeler. So now, just as an example, and it doesn't mean that this in that scenario, but the teacher says, what's wrong with you? You know, immediately being receptive, I want to take a step back. I'm a strong emotional feeler. And now I feel you've really hurt my feelings, but I'm not verbalizing how I feel. So the parents had no idea when their son was feeling down or feeling upset or frustrated, he wouldn't verbalize it. So we could work on skills to teach him, listen, it's not about being receptive or expressive. It's about being expressive and receptive. And you can see the light bulb that goes on in the parents' faces. It was phenomenal. And for me, to this day, I still get feedback from the parents. The boy was on the path of not qualifying for university and not being having good enough grades to go to university. So he finished his schooling, he finished his degree, and full on working individual, working in the finance world, doing extremely well for himself, well adjusted, still incorporating the things that we did and we discussed in the old LRP profile.
Wow.
So the science gets updated and advanced. We've changed the name, but the principles are still so fundamentally important.
Well, they're based on neuroscience of learning, so that's really has not necessarily changed. It's more that we keep enriching the body of knowledge of what that is, and there's so much experiment. But when you're talking about the things that we change, whether it's this profile or the other profile, the interventions are somewhat similar sometimes. In this particular case, what were the path of development from the work that you did as a coach with this person or this family? What were the things that you helped them do for this child to become now a performer and actually go to college when it was at the best of maybe failing in academics?
Yeah. So that's once again a brilliant question, Edith. So what I did was I started from the viewpoint, we need to identify what your potential is. So how are we going to, as a coach, you want to know what's my baseline, what's my in? And that's why we use the assessment. It's that to give you the in, and the assessment identifies your potential, right? But it also highlights certain areas that need attention. And then it becomes a process. So what I would do with this particular family, we would set out sessions where we would do accountability steps that I had with him. So we don't, in the assessment, you get all the recommendations, right? Now, there is no one person on this planet that can implement all the recommendations all at the same time. So what I did was I journeyed with him. We highlighted 3 tangible things that you can start implementing from day one. So whether that be with neurodesign flexibility activities or your brain fitness activities, whether that be getting into a good sleeping routine, we highlighted the 3 main things that we can implement from day one. And then I acted as the accountability officer for him, and just taking him through the process. Right now, this has become part of our day-to-day activities. Now we can take the next 3 things, and we can focus on the next three objectives. And it's all about taking them through the process. And we've obviously got the training material that goes along with the assessments, the action plans that go along with that. So we use that as a baseline. So that was a fundamental thing for me. Is it's not just a once and done. It's a process that you go through with, especially at an individual level, that you go through, and the results are phenomenal. Going from somebody that's failing school to somebody that excelled at school, excelled at university, and is now a completely high-functioning person in society. And obviously, you teach them along the way, learning how to learn. So they need to understand, this is how I process information. This is what I need to do for the information to be captured and put down on a fundamental level so that it reinforces those neuron pathways.
Fantastic. That's phenomenal. And one of the things that I do face when I'm coaching some of the people with identified as high potential, and they want them to go, let's say, to the most senior levels, whether that is a CTO, the CHRO, meaning Chief Human Resources Officer, or talent, now these days, people business. But one of the things that sometimes I notice is that for this particular job, you needed to be more, if your job was more tactical, then if you're carrying on a strategy that is given to you, there's some skills there that when you're moving to the senior level, now the skills are more strategic. Your job becomes highly strategic, less tactical. You probably need to help the tactical people move, develop and perform. And one of the things that I had seen is now you need to be an influencer. Now you need to be able to not motivate, but probably influence your team in a good way, because sometimes the word influence has connotation, but in a good way, bring these people to perform and lead with imparting vision and mission to others. And, it's almost like pulling the wave. I call it build the momentum, making sure that with your pivot, especially if the company is going through significant changes, such a merger and acquisition, which sometimes those tactical jobs emerge because are the people who had the knowledge of the operation. Normally, companies tend to put them now in other key positions, and the strategic piece has not been developed as much. And I see this challenge a lot because I work with a lot of, in my organizational development consulting piece, I do work a lot with this type of challenges in helping the person move from being highly tactical to be more visionary, more that frontal right side of the brain when you have been extremely in the analytical and you by default. And again, it's all about the neuroplasticity, right? It's about how do I use that neuroplasticity to move and start working more from the strategic area. So those are some of the challenges that we have with companies. Are there other cases other than this was a fantastic case, by the way. I love it because very seldom we talked about the work that we do with students, and it's one of the areas that we can help tremendously, whether it's
Yeah.
colleges, families, students, you name it. And we had seen actually one of our certified practitioners and my partner in Paraguay, Juliana, her passion is to change education. Her passion is to say, one of these days,
Yeah.
I know that we will shift the fabric of the education system in my country. And the idea here is that she envisioned giving this information at a very early moment. So for life, this person has shifted and adopted a lifestyle that is conducive to use their brain potential and to keep it going, right? Because it's not such a thing that I did it and I
Yeah.
stopped and I'm done, right? This is the everyday work. It becomes a lifestyle. Now, tell me any other cases of success like that, because this is what I want to focus our podcast today.
Yeah, there's a mountain of examples that I can give you, but one that particularly sticks with me is so we did work for a mining or a it's one of the government subsidiaries here in South Africa, and we were doing emotional intelligence training with this company. So they focused on a bit on mining and on energy. They're in the energy sector. Yeah, so it was an interesting experience working with miners. So the first thing that the leader of the team said, well, I'm in the energy space. I don't have time for this human nonsense. This is this. How do you feel? It's nonsense. I don't have time for it. And Andre Senior told him, that's a bit short-sighted of you, don't you think? You are the team leader here. You are supposed to get all these guys behind you to perform at a certain level. But that's the attitude that you have. And my Andre Senior told him, if after today you feel the same, please, you're welcome. You don't have to come back to the training. You don't have to. By the end of the first day of training, he was the number one cheerleader of the team. He didn't miss a single minute of the training. Years later, Andre Senior bumped into him attending which conference? The Association for Talent Development. Completely pivoted, went into the talent development space, but it influenced him so much that he decided he wants to make a life-changing decision. And I mean, the results that the company got, I mean, they extended our work contract there for a number of years. It's one of those where when you get good results and the people that attend your training sessions, and I mean, you think something like emotional intelligence, it's so vitally important, but most companies sort of just put it by the wayside, and they realize what a massive impact this had on that group. And so they started putting other business units through the training because they wanted those to duplicate the results that we got throughout the organization. So that's one of the case studies that we have in the corporate world. The other one is with a mining company, similar situation, but we went in. They do internal KPIs to see what the indexes are and if there has been an improvement, and they use a stringent KPI. So they expected for this program to be a success with with their employees. They expected a 1% KPI score. We actually scored, if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to just double check the exact number, but I think we scored a 8%, if I'm not mistaken. I'll just have to double check that exact number for you. But it exceeded the expectation so much that when there was a recession here in South Africa, they fired all their service providers, barring Neurolink, because they could see the application value in the training programs that we offer, along with the assessments within the organization.
Yeah. And let's be clear. Thank you for that example. And I have a follow-up question about the example, because I'm more interested about how they did it, right? And you gave me a good picture about what was the situation and what was the result, but I want to see the how in the middle. But before we get there, I like to stop for a moment about the what we call the key performance indicators. So, when the company established 1% in a mining company, 1% can be a lot of money, a lot of productivity, because every percentage that they are measuring there, it does represent X amount of dollars in the return of investment. So I'm very, what I'm trying to say here is, it's not that their expectations were low. They were probably sufficient for the money that they're investing with you, and that return of investment will suffice for them, and then some. Because if they say 1% and they were happy with that, that means that 1% was probably, hey, if I'm going to invest whatever X money here and I can 1% back, that's bingo kind of thing, right? We call it bingo when I got it. I got a lot of return of investment. Now, working with the minor companies, and I remember this case because I read the case. By the way, the case, I believe, is in our website as one of the case studies. And I remember that we were working with drivers, that we were working with operators and people who are not necessarily the sophisticated, high-end type of highly cognitive jobs, although everything requires brain power. I'm not diminishing those jobs. What I'm saying is that we not only work with executives, we work with all sorts of positions, is what I'm trying to establish. Tell me at least one to three things that these workers engage in activities to improve their performance. What are the things that change or in our interventions other than the assessment?
Yeah, so we've developed our own programs that are complementary to the assessment. But what that entails is strong intrapersonal skill sets and strong interpersonal skill sets. The other aspect that we also focus on is reducing risk for human error, and we do that by it's a number of ways. You can, starting from like the easiest thing of drinking your 8 glasses of water per day to the most complicated things like maintaining work-life sleep balance. And those are the type of things that we address in these training sessions with these individuals. Specifically with for instance, with the truck drivers, we had to look at sleep. It was one of the factors. Those guys were overworked and under an enormous amount of pressure to perform. So they would burn the midnight oil in order to get the tasks done. But sleep deprivation and not unsafe, but a bit of a chaotic work environment led to accidents. And I mean, when you have an accident on a mine with the machinery that's there, it's millions that you lose. So that was one of the main things that we looked at, especially with yeah. And then the ergonomics of their environment was another thing that we took into account when we worked with the truck drivers specifically, because now you've got a truck driver that just finished his shift, but he's a smoker. Now the next shift worker comes in, but he's not a smoker, but now he sits in a truck that's filled with smoke, and that it annoys him. He sneezes. He's not concentrating on what he needs to do. He's more focused on the ergonomics of his environment. So we helped them implement certain, or we gave them certain recommendations on what we believe ergonomically they could change. And when they implemented, it led to a reduce in incidents during the day. So that gave us a great result, but then also just focusing on their information processing style. So now you've got these people that work in high stress environments, and you have the mine operator telling the driver, it's been raining, don't go down to site B. And the driver says, I hear you loud and clear. What does he do? Because he's fatigued, because he's tired, because it's a high-stress environment, he goes to site 2, he falls, and this is a true story, by the way. The truck fell into site 2, and the guy unfortunately lost his life. Wow. So it is vitally important that when we give certain recommendations, like, please don't overwork your staff. They might say that, no, they're fine to go for another shift, but they aren't. With sleep, it's vitally important. Some other time, it's going to catch up with you. If you don't get that deep delta state rest, at some other time, it's going to catch up with you. So it's these type of recommendations that we give them that they need to implement, and then they derive the performance indicators from there. So that's why we've been able to establish such a reliable name in the field of development throughout different spheres. So whether it be we do work for a water sanitation institute, and they have such a massive buy-in in what we do. They've got a number of practitioners that take this to each individual department and do the training with the departments. And they've been very successful with the way that they've been able to train their employees.
Okay, there might be an opportunity there for a little bit of a delay. So we're having a little bit of a delay on this end, but I'm sure it will get fixed. You were saying a couple of things very important. You talked about the environment and how we also need to consider the ergonomics. But what it caught my attention, maybe because I'm a auditory learner, was the way this supervisor was giving instructions, and the brain doesn't understand negative. And when you say, don't take this route, and you add to that the person, the recipient, being with fatigue, being with the stress at the highest level, right? The fatigue, physical fatigue I'm talking about, and then the stress level, chemicals are not running to make those neurological connections fast enough. Now, probably what the brain captured is route number 2 or whatever it was that person didn't have to go. So one piece of advice out of this example is to make sure that when we are giving instructions, state the desired outcome. What do you really want the person to do instead of what you don't want them to do? Because the brain will not necessarily captures the negative statement, right? Is that correct? What I'm saying, I'm assuming it is, because I read that and I studied this somewhere. But the idea here is you just don't say like I did now. Don't say. You say it in the positive way. Please make sure that you take route number XYZ instead of don't do this. Because if you say don't do this, the brain just go blank on that. So don't understand
Yeah,
negative. So that's actually a very important thing. And when we do this work, we not only do the assessment and evaluate where the people are and how they can improve it, but also we train people on the ergonomics and the way to speak and how to communicate properly so the brain can receive that information with ease, speed, and flexibility. Those are very good example. And I'm thinking we're probably getting to the end of our session today. And I know that we have at least one more case. If you can make it quick and fast, in order for making sure that it just we don't leave it out, and then we will
sure.
close with that example about that.
Perfect. This is actually a case study about one of our practitioners that was so well. We absolutely love them and we love what they do, but they are completely fearless. They are absolutely driven to implement this in schools. So they have been extremely successful in using the assessment once again as the baseline, the entryway into the school, and they do study skills with the students. And I must say it's because of them that a head office at Neurolink, when we get the opportunity to go to schools and we need to speak to schools about how these or what the deliverables are. They've made it so easy for us to use them as an example because they do upwards of 200 assessments per year, and that's conservatively speaking. And so we asked them, like, what do you guys, like, kind of interest? What do you guys do? So they told us, well, we were on holiday, and we like to drive a lot when we're on holiday, and we drive past. Oh, here's the primary school. Let's quickly pull in. We are here in this area for the next couple of days. So let me quickly pull in here by the school and just find out if the headmaster's at the school. The secretary says, yes, the headmaster's in. He says, can I just have 5 minutes of your time? The headmaster's like, first, he's like, wait, what? Who are you from? Who are you? What are you? Where do you come from? Hey, whatever you're selling, I'm not buying. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes of your time. Bam. Convinces the school that this is something that they fundamentally need, and they are thriving. They are absolutely thriving. And but once again, the main thing with them is they figured out what their niche is and who they want to target. They don't use a scattershoot approach. They don't try and put a massive net out. They target schools. They know this is our area where we thrive, and this is what we enjoy doing. They've got a passion for what they do, and they've been extremely successful in the schooling system here in South Africa, where it's a little bit difficult to sometimes get involved with schools because of budget constraints, and they've done an exceptional job at being able to convert schools.
Yeah. For us, in the school system, we have found that it's a lot easier to work with what in the United States had this thing called charter schools, and that they have discretionary budget to innovate in the educational approaches. So those are typically our most friendly environments to implement this, because those who are in the traditional system not necessarily had that discretionary budget to improve other ideas and innovate in their education. So that's another good battle that I hope more people who wants to be coaches in education people who are doing consulting for the schools should be looking at how they can partner with us to bring innovation into the education. And that is taking us to the end of this episode. Andre, thank you for today was our third episode together. And I just want to say thank you for the time that you gave us, for giving your wisdom and your knowledge and your experience in all those 17 years or so that you have been since you were a teenager, probably an experiment when you were a child, and then became part of the workforce and the brains behind Neurolink, our most trusted partners in bringing neuroscience into the world of brain performance. Thank you so much. And I will definitely have another interesting guest. So stay tuned and subscribe. Thank you, Andre. Bye bye.